Yes, guys, welcome back to another video. Today, I want to have an in-depth discussion about the Flying Viking, the Flying Finn, Alex Tauru. What a story he has been throughout this season. Injured early on, made a comeback, had a really nice national championships, and then his back half of the season for the Gippsland Power was quite phenomenal. And this guy has some serious AFL traits. The way that he attacks the contest with a reckless abandonment at times, his physicality, his strength, and his size, so impressive. His intercept marking and what he represents as the modern day player and what he can do for a club going forward. And in particular, I do want to phrase this around or connect it to North Melbourne's pick number 2, because I think they might be the club that is the most interested. That can of course have permutations on the other elements of the top 10 draft as well. So it's important to give you a little bit of context here, because things have really changed in this key position space as the year's gone along. Early on, all of the currency, I suppose, was with Luke Trainor. He was this triple threat defender, someone that could intercept, someone that could distribute the ball, and someone that could defend one-on-one as well. He's had a lot of problems with his body throughout this year, in particular with some concussion issues that have started to, I suppose, really worry clubs, particularly worry clubs that are looking to use a top 10 selection on him, where he's kind of been placed throughout most of the season. What I want to explain here is that it isn't a direct swap or a direct replacement of Trainor out, so Tauru in. I think two things have happened simultaneously here. One is that Luke Trainor's had the body issues, which have kind of put him down in a lot of clubs' eyes. And at the same time, in the back half of this season, Tauru has just come on in leaps and bounds. He's had performances, but he showed so much more than that with the outings that he's had, particularly for the Gippsland Power and what he's been able to do at both ends of the ground. So Tauru has emerged, and simultaneously Luke Trainor's had a little bit of a downfall at the same time, and they aren't really linked to each other. They're just two separate occurrences going on at the same time. Now, we will get to the number 2 pick conversation, the North Melbourne pick, and what that kind of does for the rest of the top 10 of the draft. But firstly here, I just want to run you through some tape of Tauru, show some of his moments throughout the season, but just give you an idea of the type of defender that he is, so you can kind of get an idea of whether, and make your own mind up whether you think he should be a top 10 prospect or even a pick 2 prospect. Here's an early contest, probably one that just shows you how well he does read the play and where he positions himself on the ground in certain moments. This one against Vic Metro in the national championships, and just puts himself in the hole. Really doesn't worry about the contact coming for him there, but that one's more about his positioning and just ability to get into the right spot and then take down the grab. He does have a nice, as I said, like a nice size to him, a nice physicality, so he doesn't get out-muscled in those contests. He's really physical and just really never goes to ground. He's one against Western Australia, and he just really has no right to get to this ball. He's 3 or 4 deep back into this contest. His body's flying everywhere, but he just says, I am not going to let this ball hit the ground. He flies through. It sort of looks like he's going to spoil at first, but he gets himself to the front of the contest in front of Max Raw, who's a really good key position forward for WA here. Just takes it out of his hands, really juggles the mark, falls to ground, gets back up straight away and goes again. So that's some of that, aggressiveness and physicality that he shows within the contest. And this one's a nice one for Gippsland, where he just floats across. There's a one-on-one there. He peels off his own player who's standing behind, doesn't want to affect the contest. Tauru peels off, floats across in front, and just beautiful hands there. And you can see from some of these how he's kind of bouncing off the ground and he gets over to those contests. He doesn't look super quick, but I think he is deceptively quick over the first few steps. He's really bouncy and rubbery. That one there too, just a one-on-one where he's just able to read the ball in flight a little bit better than the attacking player. Mistimes his jump a little bit there, but he's still able to pull it down. Plenty of skill. And there's another one again, just where, running back with a flight, that's a really scary place to be on the football field. He almost gets, borderline tunneled a little bit there too by the defensive player. Doesn't care, just quickly gets on with it and recycles the ball again. Just contested mark after contested mark. I've watched this guy for weeks in the Coates Talent League, and I don't think I've ever seen him lose a defensive one-on-one. He rarely gets out-positioned, and if he does, He's not afraid to, attack the ball ferociously. He does give away a lot of free kicks too for sometimes being a little bit overzealous with his attack on the football. He can leave a few late ones on players as well, which he'll have to tidy up in his game. But, recruiters and fans certainly like his attack on the ball at this stage. So his undeniable form over the back end of the season has put him, I think, simultaneously, like I said, with Luke Trainor, that Luke Trainor's sort of had the concussion issues. He hasn't really dropped off, but the concussion issues have certainly caused doubt. And then simultaneously, Tauru has just come with undeniable, unquestionable form. That means that they've sort of just surpassed each other, just gone in different directions. And Tauru now stands as that number one, in my opinion, key position player in this year's draft. Just to compare the two players for a moment, particularly, I suppose, if you're a North fan and you're thinking, how's this guy got ahead of my other guy? Trainor is, I would say, a better player with ball in hand, but the physicality that Tauru has and probably the ability that he has one-on-one that's a little bit superior to a Luke Trainor. You have a bit more of a solidified defensive option here in Tauru, as opposed to someone that's a little bit better with the ball in hand, like a Trainor. The ability to be able to bounce back from the injuries he's had and the development that he showed in such a quick amount of time is another thing that has recruiters really intrigued, I suppose, and one that they think that they can develop into a really, really high-end top defender in the AFL competition as well. And that quick development that he's shown over this back end of the year kind of solidifies that opinion. So we have to get into the pick 2 conversation amongst this as well. So is Alex Tauru a possibility to go at the number 2 pick? I think if North can't facilitate a trade deal here to get 2 picks inside the top 20, I think that they will take Alex Tauru with pick 2. I think that drastically loses their leverage because other teams know that they desperately want a key position player, which means if teams know that North Melbourne are going to take Tauru with pick 2, then that pick 2 doesn't become a threat anymore. For example, if Richmond end up trading into pick 1 and pick 6 or pick 1 and pick 3, if they know that North Melbourne are going to pick Tauru, a player that they don't really see inside that top 5 to 8 players probably, then it just makes it really easy for them just to take the next guy and leave North with that pick 2 to kind of reach for a player, I suppose. So I hope I explained that well enough. North do lose a bit of leverage, but at the same time, there is always that risk for, say, a Richmond. If they have 2 players that they really have their eyes on, there's always that risk that North Melbourne could take them with pick 2. So I think clubs will try to get a deal done so that everyone is happy here. And if that means giving North Melbourne, perhaps another pick inside the top 20 to go with it, that trade can get done. Now, I think the team that are best equipped to be able to do a deal with North Melbourne here are Richmond, just because of the sheer number of first-round picks picks inside the top 30, say, that they actually have, and then it starts to drop their value for them, let's say, a little bit. And Richmond are more going to want to get 3-4 players that they really want, as opposed to 5-6 players that they aren't as keen on. So Richmond are likely going to hold pick 1, pick 6. Pick 9, pick 10, probably pick 17 as well inside that top 20. Most of those picks being tied to Freo to get the deals done for players like Bolton, like Baker, Rioli to Gold Coast as well with that pick 6. So what I could see happening here is North Melbourne give up their pick 2 to Richmond, so Richmond can take the 2 best midfielders that they want. Richmond give North Melbourne pick 6. And I would say the most likely of the other picks that Richmond would want to give up is at pick 17. And that's going to allow North Melbourne to pick up, say, an Alex Tauru with pick 6 and then a key position forward with the pick 17. Now, potentially another side deal here to get North Melbourne a little bit higher up the board than that pick 17. Richmond could do a deal with a team like a Brisbane who currently hold pick 15, depending on how far they go in finals. But if Brisbane were to stay with that pick 15, I could see maybe a double deal done where Richmond take the pick 15 to appease North Melbourne a little bit with that trade-on deal, and then Brisbane take pick 17 and maybe a pick later in the draft to get the points for Levi Ashcroft and Sam Marshall. And that's something that they could do, and that would appease North Melbourne a little bit more with just getting pick 6 and pick 15 as opposed to pick 6 and pick 17, for example. I think North Melbourne will be targeting amongst those key position forwards, Jobe Shanahan and Harry Armstrong, certainly, as the main two, and they may not be on the table still at pick 17. So getting North Melbourne a little bit closer to one of those players, I think will be ideal to appease all parties. And then Richmond are going to be able to get the two midfielders that they want at the top end of the draft. Okay, so that is my wrap on North Melbourne's pick 2 and the Alex Tauru bolter talk. I probably waffled on. I hope I explained that sort of pick trading stuff reasonably well there. If I didn't, hit me up in the comments and I can kind of explain it a little bit more in writing, if that makes sense. That is a wrap for this video. As I said, I'm going to have some draft rankings coming out in the next few days. We've got the Coates Talent League Grand Final this weekend, Sandringham versus GWV, so plenty of performances to take a look at in that game. And then we have the draft combine coming up as well. So I'm really excited for the back end of the year. Guys, thanks for listening to this one. If you liked the video, give it a like down below and subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time.